We're back for session number 3 tonight. We are talking weddings. We've talked lighting. Now we're going to be talking about connecting. I've got Vickie and Mitch with us tonight. Good evening.
Hello.
Good evening, John. How are you?
Great. Thank you guys for jumping in. We are in the middle of the night for Mitch because he's over on the East Coast, and Vickie, it's like afternoon almost for you.
Yeah, my kids got home from school about an hour and 45 minutes ago, and I just got everybody fed.
But see, that's the difference. They have school right now. We don't.
Exactly.
Yes, today was our first day, so we are just barely getting into routine because everybody else had school today but me.
Oh, that's crazy. Today we're going to be talking about this is something when we were bouncing ideas before we started talking about doing the show tonight, is you guys spend a lot of time with your Creating Connections podcast and talking about ways to connect, and Vickie's done some personality things, and Mitch has done some things with, the mafia to connect with people in ways where they can break things. I mean, it's just so you guys have covered the bases. But for those of us who are new to this experience, and I'm more of an analytical person, I like to basically kind of, and Vickie, I'm sure you've gone and done more personality profiling with what I like, and when I'm off the air, he's like, God, you know that he's just real tough. He's a real pain in the color. This one right here.
But you're a green blue. There's no two ways about it.
Yep.
But to the whole concept, it's not speaking to that. That's my mind has a tough time wrapping it because it doesn't seem like it's a real analytical thing for me. It's more of that, as we mentioned in the title, connecting is an art form. Let's talk about that tonight because it isn't something that you can just A, B, and C it to death.
No.
So let's jump into that, Vickie. For those of us who are struggling with that, help.
I've always said it's part art and part science, and that there are things that are quote unquote science in terms of understanding people, especially the personality side that I teach. There are generalizations that certain personality types tend to lean a certain direction. Either they lean towards extroversion or introversion, or they lean towards being task-oriented or people-oriented. And there is some science to it, but nobody just fits neatly in a box of the 40 potential traits, 20 strengths and 20 weaknesses that each personality can have. I've never met anybody that has all 40 and only those 40. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So yes, I'll say somebody's a yellow, a red, a blue, or a green, meaning they have a lot of those traits in that category, but nobody has all of them. So yes, there's some analytical side, and you can say, I think this person, like you, I think you are a green-blue. You're definitely more on the introverted side, but the green is the side of you that does enjoy talking to people. But maybe you're best in this environment. And technically, this is a one-on-one, 3 conversation. There's just 3 of us here. This is not you speaking to thousands of people or even you telling stories to a live audience of hundreds. Mm-hmm. Which tends to be people that are extroverts tend to love that kind of energy, where this is just a one-on-one conversation with you. And yes, you broadcast it, but it works for your personality.
Sure.
That makes sense?
Oh, that definitely makes sense.
So that's there is some science, but the art comes in that it's not cut and dried. And go ahead, Mitch.
And the science side to me is you're researching your client in advance, and you're trying to understand not about manipulation. That's old school selling and not appropriate in today's day and age.
It wasn't really appropriate then either. We just didn't know it.
What?
So manipulation wasn't appropriate then either.
True. But it's just the research side is so important to understand because it's not about manipulation. It's about how you can help them and how you can best understand them so that you can serve them better. Mm-hmm.
And it's not just clients too. I mean, I think this connecting in a bigger picture, yes, the sales side connecting with clients, but it's how we connect with other vendors. It's how we build our team and relate to our employees. It affects all of those different relationships. But yeah, Mitch, that's the point, is it's how do we understand that person? It's figuring out the motivation, what drives them, what they're really looking for, even if they don't know how to put it into words.
So let's take it from ethereal, and that's all great to say and stuff, but give me some real world stuff I can use here Instead
That's
of
an
just
example of a red right there.
Oh,
Reds are very practical. They just, want to cut to the chase. And
I'm just trying to help you out, dear viewer. That's all I'm trying to do. So
that was a great example.
the thing for me is, you're not going to ask somebody, instead of asking somebody, where are you from? Because that's a one-word answer, typically. Where did you grow up? Because that brings back the emotion. Growing up is outside in the streets. It's playing in the backyard. It's going over to your friend's house. It taps that emotion of the moment and that nostalgia feeling of parents and people and kids and honking horns in the background.
yeah.
And,
My window's open. I'm sorry.
timing. So it taps all those things. And when you get to the heart of the emotion with a client, when you can connect emotionally with them, you're going to go much further down the road to the sale and gain a friend and help them, in my opinion. So that's some real world application you can use, hopefully.
Well, and that whole notion of art too. Art means different things to different people.
Yes.
There are some people that love the structure and the history, and a proper photograph is using the rule of thirds, and I'm not that kind of artist. Then there's the artists that can just see something and just paint freeform, or can sit down at a piano and just play by ear. There's that kind of creative art. And I think connecting has those same things. Yeah, there are some rules, some things you can, try, and some strategies that you can employ, like crafting better questions, like Mitch's example. But the art part comes in just listening and seeing where the conversation is going to go.
And I think that's something that a lot of people, when they're trying to connect with someone, they're listening to respond. They listen only up to a certain point, and they hear something and they're like, oh, I gotta say this. And they get ready to jump in.
That's how yellows listen.
And you can't do that. Unless you're connecting with another yellow, then that might be okay.
Maybe.
But beyond connecting with a like personality, that's probably not okay.
That's not a good strategy.
So you want to listen to understand first, then to respond. And I would encourage when you listen to understand, then repeat back what it is to clarify. So you want to understand, clarify, then respond.
Let's put together a little list of some ideas and such. We're going to take a little break here for our sponsors. But when we come back, let's put together kind of a list of what a person who is practicing that art form of connecting, some tips or some ideas and such. And I know, Mitch, you're giving a few of them, but I think there's a couple of questions I've got with that, and let's kind of work on that list when we get back here. So we've got a few of our sponsors for our summer DJ and TV shows right here.
Hits USA from RPM. Our name says it all. Get the latest hits while they're the hottest. With Top Hits USA, you'll have the track for sure. Visit tophitsusa.com or call 800-521-2537 and get a free demo.
DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
All right, those are the summer 2016 sponsors. Please show them some love. Their links are in the description down below. They make these things happen. They are a big part of what we can do to bring this stuff to you. Vickie, before we went to the break, we were talking about you were talking about the different some personality types and the connecting and such, and then Mitch gave us a beautiful example of a personality type. Is it easier for some people to do this connecting, and I'm going to call it a dance, but basically the connecting and engaging people, and I say this because I see people like my wife who can handles things differently than I do when it comes to connecting with people.
Mm-hmm.
Is it easier for some people? And if so, why? And then we'll get into making a list of some of those tips or traits or ideas of how to make it better.
Well, as I alluded to in the beginning, that there's some basic categories. One is, are you an extrovert or are you an introvert? Extrovert meaning, of course, that you get your energy from being around people, and an introvert meaning you get your energy and feel recharged from being by yourself. Okay? And then, so 2 of the personalities tend to be introverts, 2 are extroverts. Then there's also the task-oriented versus people-oriented. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yes, the task-oriented personalities are the blues and the reds. And so they tend to be more focused on what needs to get done. Reds are that extroverted, high energy, like Mitch, like let's just get to the point and get on with it. And very, all business, very focused, very driven, which there's a time and a place where that personality, we need people like that. We need those traits. The blues, though, tend to approach their tasks like John in the more analytical and let's really think about this, and that deep thinking and kind of organizing things and maybe developing the spreadsheets and the organizational flow charts and things like that. So they tend to get caught up in a lot of the details. So it's a different way of approaching the tasks, but neither one of those are naturally strong in the people traits unless you lean towards that side as your secondary personality.
Because the red blues are task oriented, right?
So if someone is a red blue split, and those are their top 2 personalities, they're most likely to be very all business. And if you've got some yellow or some green, then you're going to have a better balance and naturally being able to connect. The greens tend to prefer to connect one-on-one or with small groups, whereas yellows tend to love having that audience. So yeah, the reds and the blues, sometimes it takes a little more work for them. Like I've seen reds go into a networking organization or a networking meeting, for example, and they're there to, how many people can I meet? How quickly can I introduce myself? How many business cards can I collect? I'm going to work this room and just be really efficient about it because I've got my next meeting in 45 minutes and go, go, go.
That was Mitch on Tuesday, wasn't it?
I wasn't, going to say anything, but yeah.
Pretty much.
So for reds, if you're really trying to connect and you realize that's your tendency, you kind of have to have a little bit of like a pep talk with yourself and say, I've got to go in to this situation, approaching it differently. Yeah. I need
Slow down.
Here in this moment, not thinking about the meeting I just came from or the meeting that I'm going to next, but who is here right in front of me right now.
Mm-hmm.
So the advice that I give to reds in that situation, if you're going to that networking meeting, find someone to carpool with you. It appeals to the reds' need to be efficient, but it will also help you transition. If you've got a drive that's 20, 30, 45 minutes away to the meeting, you can get in that business mindset. It meets your task-oriented need, but it also helps you transition into, hey, I'm here to have conversation. I'm here to build relationship. But you can save gas and money in the process and multitask. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So you have to work at it. And for blues, if you're a natural introvert, but you own your company and that's your job, and in our industry too, if you're a blue running a business, you probably are having a similar pep talk with yourself before you get out to go DJ an event. So if you have to have that same kind of pep talk, before, same kind of pep talk before you go and meet with a client for a sales meeting, or before you go to a networking group to represent your company, then do that. Remind yourself, I'm the only person in my company. If you're a single op, that's your job. The only one that can represent me. I need to go do this. This is my job. And maybe I'm not going to be the yellow that's telling the stories to the large group, but I can go in and have some really good conversations with a few unique individuals. And you can maybe use those blue skills like planning and thinking ahead. And get the guest list ahead of time for that networking event. And say, you know what, I want to meet with this planner or this venue or, banquet manager. Those are some places where I want to work. I'm going to try to just have one good one-on-one conversation with that person. So understanding that about yourself and setting a realistic goal, I think, is the strategy.
And as a blue, they can come up with a good deep think of questions they should be asking if they prepare in advance, because more than likely as a blue, they will. Because they're task oriented.
Those well-crafted questions, and blues tend to be better listeners naturally. Where yellows are thinking about their next story they want to tell, and reds are not just naturally good at small talk because they're so just the facts. Blues tend to be good listeners. Does that help?
Yeah, no, it does. It does. You guys have made some really good points.
Understanding yourself,
helps.
And then figuring out what you need to do for your unique personality, I think, is a big part of it.
It definitely is. Definitely is. And even some of the advice you guys have given, you talked about, Vickie, of basically being present with the people that you're conversing with is so huge. And then, of course, Mitch, you were talking earlier about the idea of serving people and connecting with them that way. Great tips, and I think those transcend whatever personality type I may have with that concept.
You have to, in your heart of hearts, want to connect and somehow provide value, something that other person needs at the core. It has to be part of it. Because if you're just going to check off a list of a meeting of people are going to connect with this meeting, and I want to get done my 10 people I'm meeting with, what are you doing? Because you're meeting a quota, but how strong really are those connections? I'd much rather go in and create 3 amazing connections than
or one.
So ones.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking maybe just one. Maybe I might meet one person.
Well, again, it depends, right, on what the situation is.
Set that bar.
If it's a 3-hour thing, then you may be able to do 3 amazing ones. So, to me, that's a goal, is be present, be in the moment, and then what do they need that you can somehow connect them with? I love doing that. I love being the conduit between 2 people who might need something. So it has no benefit to me whatsoever.
Except it makes you feel good.
Right.
I love that.
Yes, it absolutely makes you feel good. But this person needs something, and this person needs something, and I know the person in the middle that can put them together.
Yep.
Cool. Awesome.
I think that does appeal to the core values of a red, though, because we like to be productive and feel useful.
Is this the time I lie down?
Being able to solve a problem, though, and connect that does that. Not that everybody can't do that, but I think that's appeals to the reds most, because they tend to want to just fix things.
So how does that make you feel, Mitch?
He's so used to me analyzing.
Yeah, I get analyzed all the time. Just so you know.
Before and after every podcast episode. So why did you say that?
Yeah. And here's your grade.
Here's why.
Exactly. Am I paying for this?
So
Shani is a blood red. Amen, sister. You are, no doubt.
So she gets along with us so well.
Mm-hmm.
So one last thing, we got a few more minutes before we have to jump. When it comes to connecting with people, where do you draw the line with sharing or even digging out personal information about them at the different levels of meeting and planning with a couple? I know we ask a lot of questions and such, but is there a line where we don't want to cross? And if there is a line, is there any kind of guidelines of where that would be?
It's a great question.
Do you want to
Do you
start?
want to go first?
It doesn't matter. Okay.
I think the biggest thing is you have a responsibility to set the tone by sharing some personal information yourself if you're wanting them to share personally. But as far as finding the line, you shouldn't go farther than they want to go.
Yes.
Especially on that first meeting. If you're starting to sense that they're not ready to share about, their parents' divorce, get into that at the planning meeting, because that affects you. You need to know if there's weird family situations. But if you get a weird vibe on that first meeting, don't go any deeper than that.
Vickie,
it's that part science, part art. You have to be.
Well,
Mitch, hang on. Hold your thought, please. Weird vibe. Describe what that would look like for those who may not. And I'm sorry, Mitch, but this is
good.
A great point.
A weird vibe. Well, for women, it's usually a feeling. For guys, it might just be noticing that they don't answer your question, or they start to and they pull back, or they shoot their fiance a look, and then they try to change the subject. So again, it's that being really aware and not just listening to what they're saying, but watching for those other clues too. Their facial expressions. Are they leaning forward, or are they pulling back? Those kind of things. And if you see, especially when you're talking to a couple, if they're doing the little back and forth, or one reaches their hand out and or elbows the other one, let's not go there right now, then there's your line.
Perfect.
You don't go there on the first day.
This is what I talk about. You're listening not just with your ears, but with your eyes. And you need to be observant when you're asking questions, and observe the body language. Observe just the mood, their vocabulary that they're using. I mean, I can't begin to tell you how many times I've sat in a sales meeting or a planning meeting or whatever the case may be, and the groom or the bride or the mom, whoever, drops a swear word in. At that point, you've got a level of comfort established. You've got a connection. You've got rapport.
But don't be the one to swear first. That's not.
Yeah, don't break that ice.
Never. Never. But if they do it first, you've got some comfort level. You're okay. Not that you should go off color, but you don't want to go to the next level of a swear word.
The line just a little bit farther.
Right. You've established some sort of rapport, and they've let that guard down, right? They've let you into who they are as a person. And that shows that things are going well.
Yeah. Well, and that's also why we really push to get a face-to-face meeting, so that you can have the benefit of having those extra senses and visually seeing what people are doing. Even if it's over Zoom, like we're talking now, that still leaps and bounds better than a phone call or an email.
And especially Zoom or another form of communication like this, whatever it might be, you got to have that eye contact, especially if you're hitting an emotional topic. You want to make sure you're maintaining that.
Which means looking into the camera instead of looking into my playback video.
Exactly.
It is. It takes practice. I still struggle with it.
It's just something to keep in mind.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We've got to wrap things up. Website, if people want to go find out more information about the podcast, is
creatingconnections.biz. B-I-Z.
Yep.
And Vickie, on your website, you have got some tools that people can go and check out.
Yes, there's a free, a mini personality test. I alluded to the fact that there's a long one that you have to order, but there's a mini version that you can get at VickieMusni.com. The trick is spelling my name the same way that I do. That helps you get to the website faster. So it's VickieMusni.com. And then
MUSNI.
And Mitch, your website for your Gittimer sales training.
You can hit me up at salesissolutions.com.
And there's links to both of our stuff on the Creating Connections. If you want just one website, you can go there, and then you can click on our separate links on the About page too.
Cool. I put those links in the description below, so folks can go check those out. And also, show 4 is in the description below, and I'm also putting it up on the chat right there, so you guys can check that out, and we'll be there in just a few minutes. Vickie, Mitch, thank you very much for being on tonight.
Thank you, John. Thanks for having us.
This was fun.